Just listen to that. That's a young man who volunteered for what was supposed to be a totally routine medical study. What started as a simple way to earn a little money, maybe help people out, turned into the absolute worst moment of his life. And his story, well, it's at the very heart of a trial that would change medicine forever. We are going back to a single day in 2006, a day that started with so much optimism and ended in a complete medical catastrophe. This is the story of TGN1412, a drug trial that sent 6 healthy men to the very brink of death and forced the entire world to rethink how we test new medicines. So it all kicked off at a private research unit inside Northwick Park Hospital in London. 8 healthy young men showed up for what's called a first-in-man study. The pay was good, £2,000, and the goal felt noble. They were testing a groundbreaking new drug. Everything seemed completely, totally normal.
So, you might be asking, why were they even there? You know, their reasons were pretty much what you'd expect. One guy was just back from an acting course in LA and needed to pay off some debt. Another one kinda saw it as a get-rich-quick scheme. He'd done a couple of trials before, no problem. And then some of them, they genuinely wanted to help science, hoping this drug might one day cure someone. For $2,000, it seemed like a pretty good deal.
The drug itself was called TGN1412. Now, this was a monoclonal antibody, which is a fancy way of saying it was part of a whole new wave of treatments. The idea was to basically teach your own immune system to fight off diseases like cancer. I mean, this was a huge leap forward from old-school chemo, which is pretty much just poison. TGN1412 was supposed to be a smarter, more targeted way of doing things.
And here's the kicker. Everyone believed it was safe. The volunteers were told the biggest risks were maybe some hives or a mild allergic reaction. The drug company had taken the highest dose that was safe in monkeys, and then they divided it by 500 for this first human dose. They felt like they had this massive safety margin. No one, absolutely no one, was expecting what was about to happen.
And so the trial began. You've got 8 men in the ward. 6 get the drug, 2 get a placebo. The first man is dosed, then the second, then the third. But before they could even finish giving out the injections, the very first signs of disaster started to appear.
The breakdown was terrifyingly fast. I mean, about 20 minutes in, the first volunteer says he has a headache. An hour in, he's talking about severe back pain and shivering so hard his whole body is shaking. And soon after that, the entire ward just erupts. You've got men vomiting, screaming in agony, passing out. Everything was happening all at once. It was pure chaos.
So, why on earth didn't they stop? Well, the men dosed one after the other like a production line, with only about 10 minutes between each injection. By the time that first man's symptoms became truly alarming, several others had already gotten their full dose. There was simply no time to hit the brakes.
One of the participants who got the placebo, the sugar water, described the scene just like that. He just watched in total disbelief as, one by one, the men around him fell violently, horribly ill. The nurses were stunned, the doctors had no idea what to do, and the men themselves, they were absolutely terrified. The situation just spiraled into a full-blown emergency. The 6 men were rushed to the main NHS intensive care unit. Their bodies were literally shutting down. Their organs were failing. And the doctors trying to save them were facing something they had never, ever seen before. A completely unknown illness hitting 6 healthy people, all at the exact same time. Investigators were scrambling for answers. I mean, what could it be? Was the drug contaminated? Was it sabotaged? Did someone administer the wrong dose? Or was it something about the drug itself? As these men were fighting for their lives, Scotland Yard was called in to treat the ward like a potential crime scene. Then this story just exploded in the media, and it was fueled by this one shocking detail. The massive amounts of fluid being pumped into the men to keep them alive caused their bodies, and especially their heads, to swell up dramatically. A visitor described one of them as looking like the Elephant Man, and that headline stuck, creating this morbid, awful media frenzy. Pretty quickly, the doctors began to suspect the cause was something called a cytokine storm. Now, this is essentially your immune system going completely haywire. Instead of fighting off an infection, it launches this massive, uncontrolled attack on your own body's tissues and organs. It's like your internal army just turns on you, causing catastrophic inflammation and organ failure. And this created an absolutely impossible decision for the doctors. See, the treatment for a cytokine storm is powerful steroids to shut down the immune system. But if they were wrong, if this was some kind of super infection instead, giving them steroids would be like pouring gasoline on a fire. It could kill the patients. They had to make a call with zero margin for error.
A major incident was declared. The hospital's 6 intensive care beds, not nearly enough. They had to scramble to create 5 more in a recovery area. They completely ran out of kidney dialysis machines, and police vans had to be sent out across London to literally collect more from other hospitals. The scale of this response just shows you how terrifyingly close to death all 6 of these men were.
Miraculously, after days and days in critical condition, the men started to stabilize. Now, their recovery would be long and really difficult, with permanent physical damage and long-term health fears. But the investigation into what went so horribly wrong would lead to a complete revolution in medical safety. So what was the final answer? Well, the investigation revealed this crucial and up until then completely unknown difference between species. The drug worked fine in monkeys because their T cells, a key part of the immune system, needed a second signal to really react. But in humans, the drug alone was the signal. It was like flipping a switch that sent the immune system into that catastrophic, self-destructive frenzy. It was a violent reaction that all the animal testing in the world could never have predicted.
Inside the clinical trial community, the TGN1412 trial is now known as an ever event. It's a catastrophe so profound, so unthinkable, that it must never, ever be allowed to happen again. It was a complete and utter failure of the safety models they thought they could trust. And the legacy of that day is now written into the new rules that govern drug trials all across the globe. That production line approach? It's gone. Now only one volunteer gets dosed at a time, and then everyone waits for a long time. Initial doses are far smaller, and the entire way we try to predict human response has been completely overhauled.
And what about the survivors? I mean, despite the incredible trauma, the lasting health problems, one man lost parts of his fingers and toes, some have actually found a strange sort of silver lining. As one of them reflected, the whole ordeal made him realize just how precious life is. And he takes some comfort, some real comfort, in knowing his suffering led to changes that protect countless other people today.
This whole story really leaves us with a huge question, doesn't it? Medical progress depends on brave volunteers and on pioneering science. But the TGN1412 trial is this stark, unforgettable reminder of the profound responsibility that comes with pushing the boundaries of medicine and the incredibly fine line between a breakthrough and a disaster.